tall order, but you've all made it here and it's really very much appreciated. Yes, as she said, it's environment psychology, and I can imagine there's so many people thinking, what on earth is that? What is that all about? I'm actually an interior designer now, but that is my background, environment psychology. And what that means is I can utilise a number of cues and expressions and things that people do and analyse the way that they move and understand the space they inhabit really to create environments. But today what I wanted to do, in recognition that it's a women's forum, and just to acknowledge some of the experiences that we all go through, I've tailored my talk a little bit differently today. So I'm going to talk about my business and the breadth of my business first, and then what I will talk about is my personal journey and how that's come about, how it's all been put together, because there's so many people here in different stages of their business, and we all go through a lot of the same experiences, and sometimes it feels like you're doing it on your own and you're in isolation, and the challenge that you face is yours and yours alone, and that's not really the case. So I want to share with you some of my experiences so it helps you move forward with yours. Noelle Blake Creates is my business and it's my brand. Noelle Blake is my brand, and that's what we're working to take to another audience now. What we started out doing is, for me, it occurred in 2012. Well, prior to that, but in 2012 I had my first book published. So I write psychological fiction, and I had my first novel published, which did really well, and just as soon as it was published, I was awarded the Editor's Choice Award for my book. And then shortly after that we did about 6 months of promotion. It was in a number of libraries, it's available on Amazon, and then I received the Rising Star Award from my publishers as well, so it's done really well. It's actually done really well in America as well. So all of that was really good. I say really good, it was fantastic actually. So we really enjoyed that, and I was out promoting it. I just laid it down. Yeah, we were out promoting that, and it was a really good opportunity for me to recognise my own creativity as well, because I think when I started out, I had my family, had my children, and as you do, really busy catering to everybody else's needs, and I didn't actually give myself enough time to think what I wanted to do. And then after writing the book and seeing how well it did, that gave me the opportunity to say, actually, I enjoy this. Because I did it around my 9 to 5, I was working in environment psychology and writing my book on the side, and that was really what gave me the impetus to recognise the talents that I have within me are enough. Because up until then, you know, I sidelined it and thought, I need to do something else as my 9 to 5, I need to be the employee and work for somebody else, and had that mentality. And it's a big switch, you know, you've all done it at some point. It's a big switch when you actually take up the reins and say, I'm going to work for myself, I'm going to be independent, and you give yourself the license to accept that you can do that. It's a big thing. So if you've done that or you're about to do that, recognise what that means. So I started then to look at all the aspects of creativity. Up until then, around my environment psychology work, I did interiors, I styled different interiors for people. I developed a property portfolio, so I did property development, so I would upgrade properties, I would buy new properties, I would redevelop them, restyle them, so I had my own portfolio, so I was doing that around my full-time. A huge capacity for work as well is what I recognised, so I was doing that around, and then even at that point, still working for somebody else, doing all of that, but still not recognising this is where my talent lay. This is the thing that I absolutely enjoy doing, and that's what I should be doing 100%. So recognise yourselves, you know, where you are in that stage of understanding for yourselves, because the penny will drop at some point and you need to let it. don't fight it. You need to let it happen, because you won't grow without doing that. So I began to build my business, and then recognised, right, I enjoyed interiors, I was particularly good at it, went away and studied it. I already had a degree in psychology, so I tailored that as well and did additional environment studies. Had the brilliant opportunity to be asked by my local authority to come in and work on a programme they were starting, where they were moving a number of individuals who lived in long stay hospitals. I don't know if anybody's got a care background. So there were people with really complex care needs. Sometimes they even had, healthcare needs that I didn't even know the name of. Some of them are really quite rare, quite specialist. And they were moving them out of long stay hospitals into independent living. So some of these people had been in hospitals for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, for whatever reason. And for the first time, they were going to have the opportunity to live in their own space and their own environment. And it was absolutely an amazing project to be part of. So that was where I really had the opportunity to hone my skills. So, I'm talking about developing a program of movement transition for an individual who may not be able to communicate. And so you're looking at working with that individual to identify from them what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what's their colour preference, what sort of home do they need, how does it need to function. And you're faced with somebody that doesn't verbally communicate. What do you do? So really, that's where all of my skills came into play. So what we do, we're looking at, because I had additional training in, it's called Managing Diversity and Equality, but it's actually so much more than that. And it's not the diversity that you're used to, it's the diversity in terms of understanding that everybody comes from a different perspective, including people with disabilities, including people with hearing or physical or visual impairments, and the way that they perceive the world will be different to the next person. So the diversity element makes you recognise that you deal with the person that is in front of you, not your preconceived expectations. It's the individual that's in front of you, how they communicate, what they like, what they need their surroundings and their life to be in order for them to reach their aspirations. You focus on that individual. So we were utilising those skills, and if we needed to work with a specialist, we would bring them in. We developed a really good working relationships with a lot of people within the care sector, and drafted them in as we needed to, and we really got down to the bare essentials of each individual. Now, one of the clients had a hearing impairment, one of the clients had a visual impairment, one of the clients had a severe condition called Cri du Chat, which I'd never heard of before, and she was locked inside her body, but completely aware of everything that was heard and said around her. So each case was very specific, and we worked with 20 individuals and moved them out of a long stay hospital and into their own environment. And sometimes that meant working with developers as well, because the expectation of creating an environment, you think, oh, it's paint, we'll put some paint up, we'll get the colour right, we'll make sure the lighting's right and they've got nice carpet, and we've completed their surroundings. And really, that's not the case. And when we work with people, we do so much more than that. So for some individuals, if you think of a person that's in a wheelchair, for them to engage completely in their environment, there needs to be a certain amount of ownership. They need to feel that that space is for them. So you move that individual into a space that fits you, for you. The first thing you recognise is, in a wheelchair, the windows in that property will be too high, and it's things like that they give out the message that that's not for you, that's not really your space. If everybody else can be in their home and open their doors freely and access every point in their house, you've been moved into somewhere you can't go upstairs. You need to be on a ground floor. You go into the kitchen and you can't reach the counter, you can't reach your own cupboard. all of those types of things convey something to somebody, and every day they're having that visual and physical reminder that you've been told this space is yours, but you can't access it. So it's really important. These are the types of things we take into account when we create a space. We do full-on interiors. We style interiors for mainstream audiences, and we do that a lot, but we also do specialist spaces. That's what we do. So that's how we use environment psychology and tailor that into the interiors that we design. So that's the main part of my business, and what we're looking to do is move that more into a business setting. So we do homes, but we're also moving the psychology of our understanding into a business forum as well, and taking on more clients from a commercial basis. But in terms of my brand, what I also do is obviously write. I've recently started writing for a newspaper as well. So I write for a newspaper, which means I contribute various articles to a newspaper. It's called Healthcare and Wellness. But prior to that, I also wrote a column for a magazine. And what that meant for me was not only was I contributing to something and continuing to write, but I have the opportunity of harnessing the knowledge that I've acquired, the learning that I've had, and just really providing tips and different techniques for people to incorporate in their own spaces, because it's one of the things that you really take for granted. You walk into an environment and you don't actually think about how it makes you feel, and that's one of the reasons that we've held the venue here. I wanted people to have the opportunity of going somewhere they wouldn't normally. You know, you walk in here, you're surrounded by glass. You know, it's not actually a wall, so it's not a specific colour, and I just really wanted people to come somewhere so they had the opportunity to really look around and think, how does it make you feel? How does it inspire you? If you have a different feeling and there's something that you like, what is it? Is it the colour? Is it the way they've arranged it? You know, is it the positioning? You know, so just really, the reason you're here today is so that you've got the opportunity to do that as well, and just have a better understanding that environment psychology is about how you connect to the space that you're in, because it can deplete you. You know, you've all had the experience where you walk into a room and it just doesn't feel right, and suddenly your shoulders are closing in, or you just have a feeling, or something stands off on the back of your neck. There's actually a lot of different things, visually, auditorily, you're seeing things, you're smelling things, and there's so much happening that your brain can't process it all at the same time, but it just gives you a feeling. But what we seek to do is create that feeling by nurturing an environment so it constantly stimulates you, motivates you, and helps you achieve your dreams, really. So that's at the core of what we do. In terms of, Nadia mentioned the Entrepreneurs Award, that came about because of the range of things that I do. Recently, this year, I've launched our floral arrangement class as well, and what that seeks to do is a big part of when I style an environment, I also create bespoke floral arrangements, and when we style the floral arrangements, that we can take into account what it needs to say, what it needs to do, how it needs to change that space as well. But quite recently, I've been approached to work with a neuro-linguistic psychologist as well, so that we can put together a training package that helps to move people on a journey. So rather than just coming and sitting and arranging flowers, we'll do some work with them and just really help them identify what some of the blockages are in their own personal experience. And as well as creating something, we leave them with the opportunity of knowing that whatever they're looking at now, they've created with their own hands. They've done that. For some people, you know, they don't recognise that there is so much power within them. They're looking at outside and other people to validate them and validate their lives. So what we wanted to do was create a session, create a workshop where we could give people back that belief and that understanding that you completely have the power to create your own environment, and we'll be doing that through our classes next year. So yes, today, what is available, I've brought along some of the newspapers that I write in. It's got, I think this one's got some of the articles that I it's got the column that I write and some of the articles that I've done, but also, if people are interested, because I'm a contributor to that newspaper, I have the opportunity of offering advertising as well. So if anybody's interested in maybe having an article done on their business or about them, if you just fill in the cards, and I will get in touch with you, or one of my colleagues will get in touch with you, and we'll either determine whether it's an article that needs to be done or an advert that would be best suit your business. So that's something that's available to everybody today. So, promotion is key, marketing is key. So this one, for a limited period, the cost of advertising is quite low, or the article will be free. So definitely, if you're able to, take advantage of that. So that's my brand. And in terms of my journey, just a little bit, I wanted to tell you about my brand first, and then my journey after, because I actually lost both my parents when I was quite young. So everything I've done without them and without the support. And my business, Noelle Blake, is recognition of them, because they haven't been around to see a lot of my struggle, to see what I've achieved and see what I've done. So Blake is actually my mother's name. So I've incorporated that into my brand for that reason. But also, that my needs, a big part of what I do is working with people who have support-based needs or have disabilities. And the reason for that is that just at the point of having my book published in 2012, well, what I'll say is there's a lot of people here who have children, and you know what the demands are on you when you have children. And my little boy, when he was about 3, he would often come and say, "Oh wow, Mum, look at the cow in the clouds." And I'd be like, "That cow, okay?" And he'd be like that, like trying to turn in all sorts of different positions, trying to see what he was showing you. And it was lovely, it was amazing. So he continued in that vein, and it was just beautiful when he said something and we had the opportunity to really just strip back completely all the challenges of the day, all the things you need to achieve as a parent, and just almost get down on your hands and knees and just play, and forget it all. It was really good. But in 2012, just as I had my book published, we received notification of something that we kind of suspected but hadn't had confirmed, and it was that my son was autistic. So that was really difficult. It was quite a blow, but part of us really knew. We knew what to expect. We knew what to expect. But when you have the news, the reality is very different. So having the book published, having this news, that completely changed the way we functioned in our home. And shortly after that, I developed, so not even having had time to work with my son or work with my extended family to confirm the news, it was literally a matter of 2 days that I developed a condition called labyrinthitis. And it affects, if anybody's had that, you will know how debilitating it is. I couldn't even walk in my own home. I was on my hands and knees to get around my house, because it affects, it's an inner ear infection, and it affects it's like having vertigo, it's like having severe vertigo. So you can't walk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't function normally. Something as simple as watching the television I couldn't do, because it's too much stimulation for your brain. You can't process anything. And I remember picking up a book at that point, picking up my book, and nothing in my own book made sense. I couldn't read it. I couldn't read a page in my own book. And I remember thinking, what do I do? This is my life. This is what I do. I write. And if I can't read, who am I? And I remember going through this stage of thinking, my life as I know it has completely changed in the space of 2 days. I had this devastating news that I then had to process, had to do something with, but still had to be a mummy, still had to create a suitable life that meant my son could succeed. And here I was, not being able to watch TV, not being able to walk around the house, and not even being able to read. So it was an amazing time. But I tell you all of that because what I want to leave with you is going through the experiences that we have, you have to be emotionally resilient. You will have so much thrown at you, working for yourself, developing your own business, whatever that may be, you have to be emotionally resilient. If you don't have the belief in yourself and you don't have the belief in your business, it won't carry you through. You have to know why you're doing it and believe in it 100%. So that's the reason for me sharing with you in the way that I have about my personal journey and also about my brand. So that's me, Noelle Blake.